We're in Mesillas Yeshorim, Perek Chav Daled, starting a new subject. The issue now is Yiras Chet. Perek Chav Daled, chapter 24. After this is Kedusha, and then on to Ruach HaKodesh. So, the words Yiras Chet literally mean fear of sin. So we would think that a person has fear of sin from the beginning, like he's a Zohir. A Zohir is, what do we wait for the end of the whole list to come to Yiras Chet? So, as he's going to explain, there's something very deep about Yiras Chet. So he starts off just to point out that this issue of Yiras Chet is just two prakim. In other words, he condensed this parak, Yiras Chet, and also the Chalakim. He's going to include also the parts. Unlike in the beginning of the Sefer, he went to parak for each one. Bebir Amida, Chelke Amida, Kinyan Amida, Mafsidi Amida. Here he puts it Arba Shem Shtaim. Means this parak is going to include both the issue and also the Chalakim. And then the next parak, B'derech Kniyas, here is going to include the Kinyanim and also the Mafsidim. So parak of Daled Chafei is going to be about Yiras Chet, and then one parak for Kedusha, parak Chavav. Where is going to condense everything. What?
Anova was also two.
Also two? Kniyas, now you're right. Correct. So, B'vei Yiras Chet, to explain what the issue of fear of sin means. Hinei, Roseinu Amida Zos Nimdis Achar Kol Amidas HaTova Shesher Zachanu Adheina Dai Lanu Laha'irenu Alinyana Sheroi Shehi Avada Inyan Nichbod V'Kari Ma'od V'Kasha Lasigosa. The fact that we see that this attribute of Yiras Chet, fear of sin, is counted after all the other good attributes that were mentioned until now, that's enough to arouse us about it, that it must be something which is very noble and fundamental and difficult to attain. It must be a very high midah. The fact that it's so low, so down the road. It's impossible to attain this midah. Only somebody who's already attained all of the previous midas. Means the sefer is written in order, like it says. Pinchas ben Yoyer, he's the one who the brisa that the whole sefer is based on. So it says Torah Mevila Dei Zirus, Zirus Mevila Dei Zrizos, Zrizos Mevila Dei Nekios. It's building up. A person's building up higher and higher. So the fact that a person comes to Yiras Chet, it means only if he has the backup that he's already holding there, because he's attained everything else until there. So you see how difficult it must be. It must be something on a very high, noble level. So obviously it doesn't mean what we call Yiras Chet, fear of sin. We ask everybody to be a Yiras Chet. So this is something, in the Pinchas ben Yoyer at least, he must mean something that has a definite parameters that are going to be explained in this parak. So here it's a very beautiful way how he sets it up, and he does it very often in the Sefer. Whenever he comes to explain something, he backs up and he zooms out and gives a picture in general. And the general picture is very helpful to go back to the beginning, because now, in order to bring us to what he's talking about, Yiras Chet, he's going to explain different kinds of yira in the first place. Yira is fear, awe, and he's mentioned it earlier in the subject. He mentioned it very few times yira, but now he's going to say things that are going to help us to understand the more basic levels until he comes to explain what our level is. He does that always. It's very helpful. People think that if they're up to Zahirus, it does read Zahirus, but you're missing out on a lot, because a lot of things you need even on Zahirus level, you don't find information until you come to here. And throughout the Sefer, he himself says the Sefer is written in a way that you should be learning the Sefer again and again. So even somebody who's only on Zahirus level is going to gain very much from this Sefer, from this parak. As he goes on, first he zooms out and tells us what the Yira is on different levels, and he comes closer and closer until he comes to Yiras Chet. We have to preface that the types of Yira, types of fear of heaven, fear, are two that can be subdivided into three. It means we have two categories, and one of the two categories could be further subdivided. So altogether we're going to have three categories. But he starts it off with two that are three. Two main divisions, and you could subdivide one of them into its subcategories. So altogether they're going to be three types of yira, three types of fear. The first one is very easy to reach, very easy to seek. There's nothing as easy as it. It's the easiest thing. How do they call it? Easy as pie. This is the easiest thing. Nothing easier than this. The Vashniya Kasha, I'm just going to change the gears a little bit, because I'm basing it on the gears and the Sefer Teda Vikuach, the other edition, which seems to be more accurate. The second one is difficult. And the second of the second, as we just said, that there's one of the types are divided again into two. So you have the first and the second of the second. So he says the first one is the easiest thing that could be, second one is difficult, and the second of the second, which is going to be our subject, Yiras Chet, is the most difficult. That seems you have to put in the words after Vashniya Kasha. Here it says that there's one is easy as can be, another one is most difficult. But according to the gears over there, it says Vashniya Kasha, comma, the one which is the second of the second, the bottom of the second, that's the most difficult of all things. It seems to be of all. Of all means not of all three kinds. It probably means it's most difficult. Like the first one is the easiest thing that could be. End of a kalkamo. And this says kasha min hakol. It sounds like it's the most difficult thing. So that's going to come to our subject of Yiras Chet, which is going to be a difficult level to reach, and he doesn't expect everybody to reach it. We're far beyond. Precious already, he made it after Nikios, he said that this is the line that everybody's supposed to get until Nikios, and from here on in, it's only for Svidim Asher Ba'am, and I guess as you go on, more people fall out. Like, not everybody's expected to get to Precious, and then afterwards, the Torah is even a higher level, Chassidah, Hanava, and now up to Yiras Chet. So, it isn't expected of everybody. But of course, we could gain some bits and pieces, and even if someone would be able to collect the gold dust of the gold, he also would be very happy. So if we could get anything from this parak, it's surely going to be a big gain. And also, just being able to see the whole picture and mapping it out, it's going to help us even on our basic level. Also, it's going to be very helpful to understand what Yira is. So the first one is as easy as can be. Second one is difficult. The third one, or the second of the second, is the most difficult. And its perfection, if a person is able to perfect himself with that kind of Yiras Chet, is a very great perfection. A person has achieved a very great achievement if he's able to come to the level of Yiras Chet. Now he starts off. So first he's going to tell us the first two levels, like I said, Shtayim, Shein, Shalosh. First it's divided into two types, and then the second type is going to be again subdivided. So the Yeshivas Onesh. One type is called fear of punishment, and that's one type. That's the one that's easy as can be. And then there's fear of exaltedness. That's exaltedness. Rum. When something is rum, that's the term that he used earlier in Chassidus when he spoke about Avrohom. So he said we're not speaking about Yiras Onesh, we're not speaking about fear of punishment. We're talking about the awe, the fear of rum. When a person sees something is much more exalted than him, so then he feels in the comparison, how he feels relatively nothing. So that relationship is called Yira. But Yira Saromamus is not fear of the sin, of the punishment, I'm sorry. He fears the exaltedness of the one that he fears. So if you divide it, basically it's divided into Yiras Onesh and Yiras Aromamus, fear of punishment and fear of his exaltedness. And this fear of exaltedness can be further subdivided into Yiras Aromamus and Yiras Chet. There's a regular Yiras Aromamus, and then there's something which is even deeper, which is our subject, Yiras Chet. Yiras Chet is a subdivision of Yiras Aromamus. And he's going to explain as he goes on.
But it's not the same as the first Yiras Chet.
The first one is called Yiras Onesh. Yiras Onesh, fear of punishment. And then the second one is called Yiras Aromamus. Yiras Aromamus.
Subcategory Yiras of Onesh of what? Of the Chet. So
we have to get the terminology. You're right. You could say the word Yiras Chet means that he's scared of sin because of the punishment, but he's saying that's not what it means. That's not what's intended. And as he goes on to explain, it should become clear. And now we're going to explain the issues, what each one is, and also the differences between them. What's the difference between each type? So now he goes back to Yiras Onesh, and as we said, this is zooming out, and this is everybody. This is even somebody on a Zahiras level will be happy to understand more about Yiras Onesh. So he says, Yiras Onesh, fear of punishment, kipshuta, that's as its simple meaning. She'adam yira me'avar es pi Hashem Elohav mipnei hanashim asher laveros. A person is scared to transgress the word of Hashem, his God, because of the punishment. Hashem says that there's punishment. It's a reward and punishment. So if someone sins, so there's a punishment, and he's scared of the punishment, and that's easy as can be. Imla guf, imla nefesh, either for the body or for the soul. It means that there's some punishments which are physical, bodily punishments in this world, and there are some that are for the soul in Gehenna, which at this point there wouldn't be a difference. What's the difference if it's here or there? It's a punishment. It means we spoke about many times that people, when they think of Olam Haba, sometimes they think about it on the terminology of this world. If a person thinks that Olam Haba, the Schar and Onesh, is something that he relates to in this world, So he's really an Olam Haza person, even when he thinks about Olam Haba. If he thinks that there's ice cream over there, good pizza, the best pizza, like, and the fire over there is very, very hot fire, like if it's talking about a punishment, or so then he's thinking in Olam Haza terms. It's not happening in this world, it can happen in the future.
But it's hard for him to have any other claim midah.
Fine, but there are people that have a bigger claim midah. But that's a basic claim that everyone's expected to have, that anybody could just relate to what he knows in this world. And over there it's much more intense and potent and serious and real. But he still has the Olam Haza musagim. His concept, his perception is this world kind of perception.
He said he's going to get a better seat.
Yeah, but he's still thinking about his own terms. It could be, he's thinking his own terms.
Like the
same way.
Is that part of a limitation, or because of the limitation, or just...
He said that's basic. That's a basic level that everybody's expected to have. And he says nothing easier than that. Nobody wants pain, and everyone wants pleasure. So same way that in this world a person would do everything to avoid pain, so realize that over there's real pain. If the person, not only over there, in this world also, there's punishment in this world also, and a person realizes that he shouldn't do Averis because there's the consequences, physical consequences, or you could say also, La Nefesh means something that's for the soul, but also as long as he's thinking about it in his terms of pain, even if he knows, I know I don't understand spiritual pain. How does the soul experience pain? We don't know, but I just translating into his own language of pain. I don't want pain, not body pain, not soul pain, so I'm staying away from Averis. That's a basic level that is expected from everybody. And he says that's as easy as can be. This is surely easy. Everybody loves himself. It's a natural thing that a person should love himself. If he doesn't, there's something wrong. Emotionally, he's not emotionally healthy. Everybody loves himself. That's a natural thing for humankind, and he's cared for himself. He cares about himself. There's nothing that can distance him from doing something more than fear that shouldn't befall him some kind of evil. So that is the basic level of Yira, that's Yiras Onesh, and it's expected of everybody. But he says that it's mamish basic, and it isn't expected of a more. It means. It's also expected of a more noble level, but that's not enough. This only is appropriate for ignorant people and for women who are easily persuaded, or datan kala means they don't have a strong das. So this is a attribute that the Gemara talks about women, that they are their das is not a strong das. They have bina yisera. They have even more bina than men. But as far as das, so they have a light level of das. Das means usually it's translated when a person knows something, so he acts according to what he knows. He holds to his decision, and that's when he decides something, he keeps to his decision. So women have a natural inclination, not dafka to be so strong according to this. They could decide something and they could be easily persuaded to change their decision. It doesn't mean every woman is that. It doesn't mean every man is going to be a strong opinion, and once he has his opinion, he does what he thinks is right. But there's a certain attribute that's Hashem ingrained in women that is different. Just to know that it could be used for the good. The husband could use that for the good, that when she's easily persuaded after he made a big mistake, he could get back on her good side easily. You have to be able to use these attributes in the positive way. But it could be misused. But he's saying that women, even if they know something, it's very healthy for them to have the Yiras Onesh, because that is very strong. It keeps them in line in a way that something that's more philosophical might sound very good, but it wouldn't be enough to keep their strength. And this keeps their strength. You might say that women nowadays are also more learned, and they have a stronger reason to keep to their knowledge because of the strong knowledge that they've acquired. But I don't think that it's smart to ignore the fact that there is such a innate characteristic of women. Men have to know their limitations also. Women have limitations. This is a limitation that could be used for good, could be used for bad. So he's saying that Yiras Onesh is more appropriate for women, or he says ignorant people who don't learn. But it's not the kind of fear that is appropriate for wise and Anshe Adas. So he seems to say again, just to point out, he says Am Yoretz, so he contrasts that with Chachamim. Ignorant, so then he contrasts that it's not proper for wise men. And then he says Lanoshim Ashadait Kala, so Anshe Adas. People that do have a strong das, so they should not be satisfied with Yiras Onesh.
They should not be satisfied
with fear of punishment. We're saying the levels of fear over here, and the basic level is fear of punishment, and he says that's very basic, everyone should have it. But it's not enough for a person who's on a higher level of wisdom and knowledge. So why, if we say it's so easy, so how come people don't do it? According to the way he's presenting it, everyone should have Yiras HaOnesh. Nobody should be doing Averis, at least for this reason. What do we mean to say that it's so easy? So obviously the answer is that even though if a person would realize that the punishment is coming, that would be much easier for him to hold back from the sin, but people don't see the punishment in front of them. That's how most criminals, I imagine, that they don't think that they're going to be caught. But if a person realizes that there is punishment and the punishment is serious, many more people would be holding back from their transgressions, either in crime or in Averis. They would, if they realize for sure they're going to be caught, everyone tries to imagine they're not going to be caught. But if you know for sure that you're being filmed and recorded and being looked upon, and the punishment is surely going to come, so then many more people would not transgress. There might be a level when people, even if they know it's coming, they're so addicted and they're so into their Avera that they'll do it anyway. But that seems to be a very big minority of people who know they're going to be punished and they still do it anyway. Usually there's some kind of more heter that a person somehow justifies himself and he's not going to get caught. But if someone would know that it's surely going to be caught, so that should be a very big deterrent of doing sin. And he says that that's the main basic deterrent. That's called Yiras HaOnesh, fear of punishment, and it's as easy as can be. There's nothing easier than that. You don't have to be wise for that. You just have to know that it's true. If you know that it's true, so then that should deter a person from doing sin. But now he's going on to a higher level. So if we go back to a long time, Zahirus, we could ask a person to be a Zahir even on this level also. In the beginning of the Sefer, he knows that there's reward and punishment, and he did mention this. In the beginning, when he spoke about Zahirus, he mentioned that there are Kinyani Zahirus in Perek Dalet, if I recall. He's talking about the things that motivate a person to be a Zahir, to be a careful person, conscious of what he's doing, alert. And he said there are different levels of people. They call Shleimei Adas, and then Pchusim Mehem, and then Kol Hamon Kulo. Shleimei Adas means people who they desire Shleimus, they want perfection, they want to be what's right, they want meaning, and that is their main desire. They also don't want punishment, but the thing that really drives them is they want meaning in life, and what the truth is. What am I? What is my existence all about? And that was elaborated over there. We'll get to it again, Be'ez Hashem. And Yiras, then the Pchusim Mehem was people who judged their level of meaning according to what society says. It means that they're not just people that are looking for outer prestige. They want prestige, but the prestige is something, it's a barometer for them to know what is important, and they're not able to judge it on the essence of good and bad, but on what society says. And that's how most people live nowadays. If the society decides for them what's good and what's bad, even styles, even not good and bad, even what's beautiful, so society decides for them. Now this is beautiful, and then next year something else is beautiful, and they look at pictures that they had 10 years ago and they said, how did I ever buy such a thing? They don't believe how they thought that it was beautiful. At the time everyone thought it was beautiful, that's why they also thought that it's beautiful. Now 10 years later the styles changed, and they never would have been caught wearing such kind of pair of glasses, and they said, how was I so foolish to buy such a thing? But because everybody else had it, that's why they thought that it was beautiful. So in general, society decides for people what's good and bad. So that's even something which is not important, the style. But even in good and bad, they want to know what is good. So they look, what does society hold to be good? That was the second level of Pchusim.
Who determines what society?
So then you have to decide which society you want to be in. Over there, the Mesillas is saying the society of Olam Haba. So he's telling you there's not the choice over there. You got to Olam Haba. What's going to be the factor of what level are you going to be in? And a person who that speaks to him, he also is looking for shleimus, but he doesn't know how to decide it on his own because of its essence. But he sees how where is he going to be in the level of society in Olam Haba, in the as the Ramchal calls it, kibbutz hashleimim, in that society of people that are going to be in Olam Haba. What's going to be his level? So that's a way of judging and measuring what worth do I have, what value do I have. So that was the second level over there. And the third level was Kol Hamon Kulo, for all the multitudes of people, Tzar Ba'onesh, the same language as it talks about over here, that reward and punishment. And even if a person thinks in Olam Hazeh, Olam Haba, there's no difference. If he's translating it into the language of pain and pleasure, so that's the Olam Hazeh, reward and punishment definition. And even if he thinks it's in Olam Haba, he's also under the same category. It's called Yiras HaOnesh, and that should be a level that should deter him from sin. And he really did. So I'm just saying, he did mention this earlier, the different levels. This level of Yiras HaOnesh was mentioned earlier, and that should be a deterrent for people who are on this level, that they should also be fearful of sin and also become conscious, become Zahirim. But now he's going to take us a little further, into a higher level. Before we go further, just make one point, that I heard this from Rav Nosson Rotman. It sounds like a chiddush, but I think after you hear it, it might it might settle well. I think we mentioned it earlier when we learned over there in Zehiros, that if someone is scared of the punishment, but not of the onesh, but not the ma'anish, not the punisher, so it's not even this level of yiras onesh. It's below the basic level. It means if somebody's scared of the stick, but not the one who's yielding the stick, so then it's not even the level of yiras onesh. He has to be at Yifir Hashem because he has the power of punishment. But if a person doesn't at all relate to Hashem, just at the punishment alone, he does about his skin, and that's all. He doesn't relate to Hashem. That isn't even the level of yiras onesh. And even though it sounds like, what do you want from the person? He's really scared of the punishment. It's not enough. It has to, someone, he gave an example, that if someone's going to worship the Satan, how do I say it in English? Satan. That means that he's only interested, he's going to get on good terms, so to speak, because he doesn't want to get the punishment. Like he's worshiping the Citrin Achra. His whole relationship has nothing to do with Hashem. It's just about there's evil in the world, and I have to be scared of the evil. It's not a holy level. The yiras onesh is a holy level. It's a basic holy level that it's not enough. It's not, but it's still holy because he still relates to Hashem. Hashem, who has the power of punishment, so I relate to him and I don't want him to punish me. But it has to be him. But if a person doesn't make that connection, he just thinks about the stick without the one who's wielding the stick. So it's even less than yiras onesh, and it's bad. It's a bad thing. We're not going to say a person should do the avera, but we're going to say that's not enough. He didn't even meet the minimum requirement of yiras onesh. He has to realize that Hashem is there, and it has to be somewhat of a relationship to Hashem. I think he based it on the Zohar, but I think once we understand the concept, we also would accept it, that it makes sense that if he's just relating to the evil in the world, there are people, I heard, he said, I don't know, but there are people today that there's a kind of avodah zarah, that they worship the evil. Means the evil forces that Hashem made are able to attack me, and therefore I'm going to get on their good side. That they should, I should make some deal with them. There's some sukkim like that. Asinu, I forgot the exact quotation, but something. We made a contract with death. I forgot how to say it in Hebrew, but it's something to say that we're making deals with the angel of death. So that's, everyone understands that that would not be holy at all, that a person is going to get on the good side of the angel of death in order to make some deals with him. So that's not, you say he has yiras onesh, he's scared of the onesh, it's very good. No, it's only if he has yiras onesh in relationship to Hashem, that Hashem is the one who's in charge of the onesh.
Is there such a thing?
There might be, like any kind of avodah zarah you could talk about. Does it do anything? Is there anything essence of avodah zarah?
So if Hashem selling your soul to the devil,
I don't know how far it goes, but is there such a thing like any kind of avodah zarah? In the long run, no one's going to gain from doing avodah zarah. But there are two ways of understanding avodah zarah. One is that it just sticks and stones, and it's just a bunch of hevel, and some psukim describe it like that.
Some devil walks into your house and you're sleeping and signs you onto the Tanakh.
No, so I'm talking about if there are there angels.
I think yes, conceptually a person does that. Then chas v'shalom, a person will do some type of action because there's some type of personal reward without any recognition
of Hashem,
or that the consequences of the onesh. And I think that's exactly what that is. Right,
but the question is there something that's even like a realistic, conscious relationship that he is really actually worshipping? Not only the way he's acting means that he's just relating to the. I made it watered down, that he's relating to the stick and not to the one who's wielding the stick. But is there such a thing as worshiping an angel, of a destructive angel, in order that he shouldn't hit him? Means, for instance, Hashem sent the angel to. Is it possible? Right, it's avodah zarah. So there's one type of avodah zarah that will say that it's mamish nonsense and it's just bowing down to a stone that's nothing. But there are sources where it's mashma that there are pikidim, there are angels that Hashem put in charge of different assignments, and a person might worship the angel in a way that he's going to try to get on his good side, and it is prohibited, and that's avodah zarah. Is it possible that he might initially think he's getting something? It's like going to the bank teller, and he sees the bank teller has a whole drawer of 200 shekel bills and says, let's make a deal, and you don't have to speak to the president about getting this mashkanta, I need a mashkanta, and you're also going to gain on it. Is there such a thing as going to a malach who has a certain assignment and being able to make some kind of deal with him? Does it exist? Is there some kind of worshipping of an angel and different kokos? So it has to do on the subject of kishuf and sorcery. So there might be some sources, some Rishonim seem to say that there is such a thing, that there are malachim that Hashem assigned different powers, and is it possible for the malach? What?
On both sides.
On both sides, meaning good, yeah, but you're not supposed to worship malachim at all, not for good, not for bad.
For good, you could also try to get on this side of the malach.
Of a good malach.
Good.
Right, but it's also that's also avodah zarah. You're not allowed to worship a malach in any way, not a good malach, not a bad malach. So we're just making it more aggressive, this issue about worshiping the onesh and not the ma'anish. But to go back to the basic concept that people, the way they react is that they're not thinking about Hashem at all. So that was what Nosson Rothman's point, that Yiras Onesh, even on a basic level, has to be God conscious. The issue of Yiras Onesh is that he realizes that Hashem is backing up his commandments with reward and punishment, and he relates to Hashem. So I thought that's a nice point to mention over here also, that Yiras Onesh also has a certain minimum, even though he says it's nothing easier than it, but just to point out, not just to focus on the stick, but to focus on the one who's wielding the stick. And of course, a person gets a little smarter, he realizes, why is Hashem holding the stick? Why does Hashem care if I do a sin? So the same way that a father, the son and the father is going to realize, why is the father making this whole system of reward and punishment, and if I do bad, just because the father wants to get me if I do something he doesn't say? Or he realizes that the father has a master plan and he's interested in my good, and he gets a little smarter than this basic level of Yiras Onesh. Now we go on to the next level, Yiras Haromamus. So again, he said that the issue of fear could be divided into two, and then we're going to further subdivide the second category into its two levels. So the first subject is Yiras Onesh, fear of punishment, and the second one is now Yiras Haromamus, fear of Hashem's exaltedness, which I think we would call in English awe, A-W-E. When a person is awed, not because he's going to get hurt, but just the fact that he realizes the difference between the exaltedness of the one that he fears and his lowliness, that alone is called fear. That's a fear. That's a very noble fear. That's awe. Amen. Hasheni Yiras Haromamus. V'hu she'odam yirchak min hachaton v'lo yaseh mipnei kvodo hagadol yisbarach shemo ki eich yechol. O eich ya'arel libo shel basar v'adam shafal v'nemas la'asos davar neged v'tzono shel habore yisbarach v'yisal shmo. I think that I read it in a way that's different than some of the editions, but I think this is definitely correct. It's based on psukim. It's paraphrasing psukim in Yeshaya. Memches, we have the reference over here. Lamani yaseh ki eich yechol uchavodi la'achel lo atein. There's a pasuk ki eich yechol. The Ramchal very often does that. He paraphrases psukim. So that's obviously what he meant over here. That a person is going to distance himself from sin and not do them because of Hashem's great honor. How can it be profaned? Kvodo agadol lamani yaseh ki eich yechol uchavodi la'achel lo atein. So there's the issue about profaning Hashem's glory. And Hashem, a person who cares about Hashem, he realizes Hashem's exaltedness, he's not going to do a sin because that's going to profane, that's going to be mechalel kavod shamayim. And a person who's sensitive to that greatness, he doesn't do the sin, that holds him back from sin. Not because he's scared of the punishment. He knows there's punishment also, but that's not what is he's focusing on. That's not where his heart is. His heart is that he cares about kavod shamayim so much, the glory of heaven, that he cannot bear the thought of profaning it. Or Ech Yerad, Yereh or Yerav. There's a pasuk in Yirmiyah. Mihu Ze Arav Es Libo Lagesh Es Elayno Hashem. That's a pasuk in Yirmiyah, Lamed. So probably also that's paraphrasing over here. How could a person wager, so to speak, being so low and despised, to do something against the will of Hashem? Two different angles of the same idea, that he cares about Kvod Shamayim, he cares about the glory of heaven, and he doesn't want it to be profaned. Or another aspect of the same idea is, who am I, such a lowly being, to do something against the will of Hashem? So this is all aspects of Yiras Haromamus, when a person realizes the exaltedness of Hashem, how great he is, and it takes a lot of study in order to know how great Hashem is. And a person has to be an intellectual person to realize the fear of being hit and feeling it on his skin. You don't have to be very wise. That's what he says before. You don't have to be wise for that. But in order to realize that this being is so much greater than me and I'm so lowly in comparison, and therefore to have this sensitivity, this takes wisdom. So That's the level of Yiras Aromos. This level of Yira, of a fear of heaven, is not so easy to attain. From where does a person get this awe of Hashem's greatness? He has to be intellectual to see Hashem's greatness. Either he's going to study it from the sciences, or I imagine that's going to be the way he's going to do it. He's going to see it in the Bria, in creation. He's going to see the deep wisdom of Hashem. And there are many books that a person can take. It just has to cross out the word evolution, the nonsense evolution of the Zohar, and see it, instead of saying adapted, just put in the word design, because it's impossible that such a thing could have happened by accident. And Professor Borenson could help us with this and many examples. Everyone's invited to a Shabbos table. And it's ridiculous. But you see infinite wisdom, intricacies of endless wisdom, and you see Hashem's greatness, both in wisdom and in power. So a person has to be a bit intellectual to grasp this. And the more that a person studies it and delves into this wisdom, he'll be more and more awed of Hashem. It's not something I can just say, Hashem is infinitely great. You only feel the infinity as much as you understand. The more you study Hashem's greatness, and the more you see the vast difference between man and God's perfection, the more he extols Hashem, the more he sees how great he is. So the result of having this awe depends how much work you put into it, how much mind and intellect and study you put into the subject of knowing Hashem's greatness. If someone just writes a check, Hashem is infinitely great, it's like you write a check for $1 million and you have nothing in the bank. You have to have something in your bank. So I say everything is infinite. What does infinite mean? What's infinite greatness? Please explain to us. 10 minutes, explain to us what you know about Hashem's greatness. If he doesn't have anything to say, it means he doesn't really have any awe of Hashem. Hashem is like his grandfather, great-grandfather, like, what kind of Twin Towers, Empire State Building. What could he think of Hashem's greatness? He goes to the zoo, he sees a lion, a bigger roar. What kind of concept does he have of Hashem's greatness? The more the person delves into it, the more he's going to actually feel and be sensitive to Hashem's greatness more and more. So this is something which depends on a person's level of intellect. Kalela Devorim, he told us, this all are results, consequences of an understanding mind.
Yeah, I didn't just...
Understanding mind. He has to have understanding. He has to be a smart person. So therefore he says that it's not so easy. It isn't like the first one. Yiras Onesh is easy. Everybody, you don't have to have any lessons about fearing pain. But you have to have lessons in understanding Hashem's greatness. And this is what we mentioned earlier in Chassidus. When we spoke about Chassidus, we spoke about Ava v'Yira. Those were the Chelkei Chassidus was divided into what to do and how to do it and why a person is doing it. So in the Ofen in the Chelek Sheni, which was about Ofen HaChassidus, so Ofen HaMaisa, so he spoke about Ava v'Yira, and he said this is the Yira we're talking about. We're not talking about Yiras Onesh. The level of Chassidus back in Perek Yutes was not about fear of sin, fear of punishment. It was about fear of Hashem's exaltedness. Bo Yevo Sha'adam v'Yechrad v'Amdo Lifnei Kono L'Ispalel Olavod Kol Avoda. When a person is serving Hashem, doing mitzvahs or davening with such an emotion of yira, that's going to cause him to be ashamed. He's going to feel himself unworthy and humiliated, standing before Hashem. Like, who am I to be able to come before Hashem and to serve Him? It's like a person is being honored way above his level to do something in honor of a great, great being. So when he comes, he feels like a worm. Who am I to bring this? We can imagine in our own world. Even the celebrities that we think about, whoever you might think of, every person in his own world, either it'll be a great Gadol Ador, or Havdil, a prime minister, or a president, or a king, and he's going to be chosen to be the one to serve him breakfast. So if he really appreciates the greatness of that being, so he's going to feel like, who am I? He'll be shivering. Who am I to be chosen to do such a service to such a great being? There's no comparison between my worth and this being's worth. So that the more a person has this level of Yiras Romamos, so that's going to cause, when he's serving Hashem, so that's going to cause the emotion of Yira. And that's called serving Hashem v'Yira. There's also Ava v'Yira. This is Yira, that he realizes Hashem's great, infinite exaltedness, and because of that, he has the emotion, it evokes the emotion of shame and humility. That is the praiseworthy fear that pious men of all time have been praised that they had that quality. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu means when he says that to fear this honored and awesome name, Hashem, your God. So he's talking about Hashem HaNichbod, HaNorah, not talking about Hashem's fact that he punishes, that's not the point, but he's supposed to fear Hashem HaNichbod. So the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu talks about Hashem being Nichbod, being noble and honorable, so that does nothing, that shows that it's not talking about Yiras HaOnesh. It happens to be, if you look in the pasuk over there, it comes right after the Tochacha, right after all the list of real physical punishments. But the pasuk is not talking about Yiras HaOnesh, it's saying because you didn't do the mitzvahs, because of Yiras Hashem HaNichbod VaNorah, so then you have to be punished. But the point of Nichbod VaNorah is not an issue about Yiras HaOnesh, it's an issue about Yiras HaRomamus. So we have already the main division of Yiras HaOnesh and Yiras HaRomamus, fear of punishment and fear of Hashem's exaltedness, the awe of Hashem's exaltedness. And now he's going to come in to start the subject that we're up to, which is Yiras Chet. And he said before that Yiras Chet is a subdivision of Yiras HaRomamus. Zos hayira she'anachnu b'veyura ata, dahainu yiras hachet, hi kamo chelik miyiras haromamus shezachanu, uchamo min b'fnei atzmo. This issue of yira, which we're in the middle of explaining, yiras hachet, the fear of sin, is in one way, it's part of the category called Yiras HaRomamus. It goes under that category. It's not at all under the category of Yiras HaOnesh. It's under the category of Yiras HaRomamus, the fear, the awe of Hashem. But it still has something unique about it, that it's considered a separate species. It's a min b'fnei atzmo. It's something which is independent. So in one way it's similar, in one way it's dependent. They made it a subcategory of Yiras HaRomamus. V'hainu, ki hinei, inyanahu, she'yiyeh ha'adam yorei v'dovek tamar al masav, penis'arei b'am eze shemetz chet, o peniyah b'am eze davar koten o godol, she'eno lefi godol kvoda yisbarach v'yiromamu shmo. So he defines it over here in a few lines. He's going to explain it at length. But the definition is that a person is worried, scared and worried constantly about everything that he does, that it might have gotten mixed in with it some bit of a sin, or something which wouldn't be according to Hashem's honor. It'll be something which might slight Hashem's honor. He's always conscious that he might make a mistake in a way that it might slight Hashem's honor. So the fact he says slight Hashem's honor, the fact that it talks about Hashem's honor, Godel, Kvodo, V'romamu Shmo, so he's not talking about punishment. He's not saying I might do something which I might get a punishment for. That's not the issue of Yiras Chet. Before you mentioned that, it could be Yiras Chet. The person fears sin because he might have done a sin that'll cause him an onish. He says that's not the subject. The subject of Yiras Chet is that he's scared he might have done a sin which is going to, in some way, slide Hashem's honor, and it would be against the exaltedness of His name. He's always, that's in contrast to what he said before by Chassidus. I'm giving to preview what he's going to say about the difference between Yiras HaRomamus and Yiras Chet. Yiras HaRomamus, before he told us that it was when he's coming to daven or to do some service before Hashem, and he has that feeling of Hashem's exaltedness, so he feels the vast difference between God and him, so he feels humbled and shamed. Now he says the word tamid. Here he says that a person is constantly worried about what he's doing, maybe he's making some mistake. So that's going to be the shorish. Not kanoi. Here he's talking kanoi. I'm not sure why you say kanoi. Here he's talking about I might make a mistake. I might be making a mistake.
But the mistake that he's worried about making is so that he shouldn't profane the
right. Oh, yeah, that is true. That in Kanos also was because the person cares about Hashem's honor, so he can't tolerate when somebody is profaning Hashem's name. That's true. That's Yiras HaRomamus over there. That a person has that relationship to Hashem. But here the point is that it's at a constant level. Over there would be when he sees Hashem's name being profaned, he can't tolerate it. And when he comes to serve Hashem, he's davening, he's prostrating himself before Hashem, so he realizes who he's prostrating himself before and who he's serving, and he has that evokes in him that emotion. But this here is going to be a constant consciousness of the difference between Hashem and him, and how much he exalts Hashem's name, and how much he's worried that he shouldn't make a mistake. A mashal would be, jump a little bit. A mashal might be if somebody would be working in the atomic nuclear reactor. He has a job over there to make sure that the switches, he's on constant fear. It means that the consequences are so great and awesome that you can't make a mistake over here. You can't just I'm sorry, I flipped the wrong switch. No mistakes. And if anything goes wrong, the consequences are catastrophic. So the issue over here, when a person realizes that Kvod Hashem by him, if there's going to be a slight to Hashem's honor, that's called catastrophe. That's called that a person is constantly conscious. He can't make a mistake. because he cares of Kvod Hashem so much. And we'll come again and again to see that there's nothing to do with Yiras HaOnesh. If a person is going to be so nervous that he might get punished, that's not a Madrega that he's talking about. He's talking about the Madrega that I care about Kvod Shemaim so much that I can't make any mistakes.
Can you give an example?
The example is here, I would think that there are no examples over here. Here the point is, whenever a person would make a mistake in anything, if it's going to be making a mistake in Shmir Shabbos, or in Chilul Hashem, or in honoring somebody that deserves to be honored, or Torah, making a mistake in Muktzah, any kind of avera that it might be, then Adam Lachaveru, but Adam Lamokum, between Hashem, between man and God, between man and his fellow man, any mistake that's going to kasher us right, anything of the 613, and anything besides the 613, anything that might in some way slight Hashem's honor. He's going in the street and someone's going to say about him that this is not a good representation of a person who's serving God. Chilul Hashem. He profaned Hashem's name. So he's so scared of that because to him, the honor of Hashem is so important. So his whole focus and emotion about making such a mistake is as if he'd be in a place of great danger. I gave an example of some kind of nuclear reactor, that if he makes a mistake over there, it's catastrophic. So a person who cares about Kvod Shemaim so much, he's doing it with the same awareness. It's not a question of an example. Any example of doing Hashem's will, and if it's going to be a mistake, is going to cause some kind of slight to Hashem's honor. So the regular person, okay, I hope it doesn't happen again. He takes it easy. He's not so worried about it because he doesn't realize that it's so important. But to somebody who realizes that this is the most important thing to him, so he's very nervous about it. The more something is precious to somebody, the more nervous he is about it. We're not talking about nerves in a way that it's not balanced and he needs, not obsession. We're not talking about anything which is not a good and healthy emotion. But a person who really realizes that this is so important, and because of that, he's so conscious about it. That's called the issue of Yiras Chet. He's scared of making a mistake.
Yeshorim is not like that?
What?
The one before Yeshorim.
Yeshorim was not. That's what he says. That he gave examples given were when he comes to daven. I'm going to do something now. He's invited to come to the king to serve the king, or he's davening to the king. So then this is the being that I'm talking to. But if he's not right now in service, so then he's at ease. There's being at attention and being at ease. And even the point that was brought up about kanos, that a person when he sees a chilul Hashem, so then it evokes in him, this can't be. He can't tolerate seeing that Hashem is being scorned in any way, Chalila. So that means that something evoked in him this consciousness, but he's not at attention constantly. And this point is the word. He's not a constant. It's not a constant consciousness. It's only when something is at hand. Either that he's praying to God, or that he's serving God, or that something is going wrong. There's an issue that he's thinking about God. So then when he thinks about God, he has a very great impression of God. But he's not a person who is constantly conscious of God. He's not a God-conscious person constantly, but a person who's constantly conscious of God, and he realizes that any act that he does might make a mistake. So then he's constantly conscious of this exaltedness, and that's called Yiras Chet. And now we're going to translate Yiras Chet. He's scared of making a mistake. But scared of making a mistake is because he cares about Hashem's honor so much, can't be any mistakes. That's the issue that he calls Yiras Chet. Now he's going to just elaborate. We said it mostly already, but he's going to say how you see in what way it's comparable and what way it's different. He said that it's a subdivision of Yiras Chet, so it's a Yiras Aromos, so in some way it's within the category, in some way it's not. You could right away see the relationship, that they are related. It's very similar to Yiras Aromos. Because the purpose in both of them is not to do anything which is against the exaltedness of Hashem. But there's a difference between the two. But the difference between them, which because of that difference, it's considered a different type and has a different name. One is called Yiras Aromos, one is called Yiras Chet. What divides these two types? Who is the following? Yiras Aromos, this paragraph is going to talk about Yiras Aromos, and the next paragraph, at least in my edition, is going to contrast it with Yiras Chet. Yiras Aromos hu b'shas ma'isa. Yiras Aromos is only at the time of the act. Then he's reminded of who he's talking about, who he's talking to, who he's serving. That's B'Shas Maisa. And he enumerates, what does it mean B'Shas Maisa? O B'Shas Avoda, O B'Perek Avera. Either at the time that he's serving Hashem, or at the time when an Avera comes to hand, and he has an opportunity to do an Avera. So then, Yiras Aromamus is going to be evoked, which means the Hainu. Now he goes back again. What does it mean B'Shas Avoda? O B'Shas Shomi U'Mispal Lo Oved, Shaz Yevosh V'Yikolim, Yirash V'Yirat, Mipnei Rum Kvod Yisbarach. When he's standing before Hashem to pray, or to serve Him, to do some service to Hashem, so then he's Busha, that's the shame, he's shamed and humiliated. Yirash v'yira, then he's shuddering and shivering before Hashem's exalted honor. That's he's consciously coming before Hashem to serve Him or to pray to Him. So then he's going to relate to Hashem on this high level of Romamus. And then the other point he said was Perek Avera. If it becomes an issue of doing an Avera, that also is the point. Oh, B'Shas Shem as the menace Avera Lefanav, when an Avera, a possibility to transgress one of the mitzvahs comes before him, for Makir B'Ashi Avera, and he realizes that this is an Avera, it's conscious, this is an Avera, I have an opportunity to do an Avera now, so he's not going to do it because of Hashem's honor. He's not going to do it to spite Hashem's honor. It means he can't do it because this will cause a chilul Hashem, it's going to cause slighting Hashem's honor. So that is all called B'Shas Maisa. Either B'Shas doing a mitzvah or doing a possibility of doing an Avera. So then he evokes in himself, who am I talking about? Who am I talking to? Who am I dealing with? He realizes that it's Hashem, and by him, Hashem is not only someone that has a stick, but Hashem by him is infinite greatness, and he's awed by him, and he can't bear himself to do an Avera, and when he does a mitzvah, he's going to be shamed and humiliated. But what is Yiras Chet? Yiras Chet is a constant consciousness. Yiras Chet b'chol esu b'chol shah. Fear of sin is constantly, at all times. Shehinei b'chol, it says davar, b'chol rega, different girsa. Hu yorei pen, I think rega makes more sense according to the context of what he's saying. B'chol rega, hu yorei pen yikashal v'yasa davar, chatzi davar, shia neged kvod shemo yisbarach. He's constantly fears he might stumble and do something, or even half of something, which is opposing Hashem's honor. That's the issue, that he's a constant consciousness of Hashem, that I can't make any mistakes. This is too serious to make mistakes. So he's always on guard that I can't do something which might cause a chilul Hashem in any way. That's why the subject is called Yiras Chet, because the issue is that he fears making a mistake. Shalo yikanes v'yisor b'masav machmas pshia v'srashlos or machmas helem yeh beis derech sheyeh. He's scared that it shouldn't come into his actions, either because of negligence or lax, or because of some ignorance, he was not paying attention in any way, that he shouldn't make any mistake. Our time's more or less up, so we'll stop here, but we got the general idea tonight. There's an issue called Yiras Chet, which means literally fear of sin, and he's explaining that it's something which is a very high level of God consciousness and caring about knowing who God is and being conscious of Him constantly. And he broke down the issue of Yira into two that are really could be broken down further into three. In general, there's Yiras Onish and Yiras Aromamus. Those are the main categories. Your fear of fear of punishment, and fear of Hashem's exaltedness, the awe of Hashem's exaltedness. Fear of punishment is for anybody. Everybody should relate to that, because everybody knows what it means to have pain, and nobody wants it. You don't have to have any chachma to realize I don't want to be pained, and everybody should have that basic level. But that's not enough for people that are wise. Anshe chachamim v'anshe das, and Yiras Aromamus means that a person realizes Hashem's greatness, and because of that he has such a relationship of awe before Him. That itself could be divided into two. There's one, when he thinks about Hashem, that's what he thinks about. When it comes to the issue of doing a mitzvah, doing an avera, and he's thinking about Hashem, so he relates to Hashem not only as the one who has a stick, but the one who is so infinitely great. And that's good for when he's davening, when he's doing a mitzvah, or when the avera comes at hand, then he holds back from doing it in order not to profane Hashem's honor. But then there's a higher issue, which is our issue of Yiras Chet, that a person is constantly conscious of this great, awesome God, and therefore he's scared to make any mistakes, which might have this consequence of chilul kvod shemo, and that by him would be catastrophe. And that's the issue of Yiras Chet, which now we see already why it's such a advanced level. It's something which only could be attained after the levels that he reached until now. And B'Hashem next week we'll elaborate further on it.